If you are feeling stuck, such as maybe you're trying to make an important decision and feel trapped or lost, or maybe you feel like you are not making progress on your goals, or you just feel frustrated because you are stuck at a plateau, or maybe you just can't put your finger on a particular frustration, or maybe you just have that general feeling of meh, right? Well, when we say we're stuck and we want to move forward, but we just can't seem to take the action to get unstuck, most people call this procrastination or resistance, right? Well, you know that feeling of a strong downward pull or heaviness or creative mental block. So the reason I made this video for you is because when you feel stuck, it's helpful to understand the energetics of what is actually happening. And when you can identify what actually controls the levers that keep you stuck, you have a better chance at a real breakthrough. And that's really what you want, right? You want a real breakthrough. So whenever you attempt to move forward or set a bigger goal or expand in your business or life, there will always be invisible, unprocessed stuff running in the background of your mind and body that are not always obvious, right? When you set out to do new things in your life, you'll be given these opportunities to process all that background stuff. But more often, you will experience interference that blocks your best efforts. So that's what we call procrastination or resistance. And I want you to know it happens to all of us and you're not alone. So let's just get into all of this, okay? There are 3 sticky ingredients that build up in your mind and body that keep you stuck. And I'll go over these 3 things really quickly, and then I'll break them down in more detail, okay? So the first sticky ingredient is your unexpressed emotions that have built up an energetic charge within your mind and body. You can think of the built up emotional charge as like this bonding glue. So the second sticky ingredient is a strong magnetic pole that disconnects your thinking mind and your feeling body, called polarization. So you can think of polarization like a magnet that attracts and repels. And then the third sticky ingredient is stabilization. And stabilization is what seals the deal with concrete-like qualities. So when you feel vulnerable or uncertain, you will reach for stabilization. So you can think of stabilization as the concrete that keeps you really stuck. So those 3 sticky ingredients keeping you stuck are 1, emotional charge, 2, polarization, and 3, stabilization. Now, on the surface, these things can sound really mechanical and not so exciting, right? Well, because it's more interesting to share a story that involves evil forces or entities that are responsible for keeping you stuck. But while dramatic stories are an interesting way to explain the invisible forces at play, sometimes stories just complicate things and are not really helpful. And I feel like today, people are finally ready to be more real and address issues in a practical and even elegant way, rather than seeking explanations through the lens of scary monsters or evil spirits. So my intention is to guide you to make real breakthroughs without the trappings of confusing narratives or, shadowy characters, which just produce more, of that hero and victim stories that people just stay stuck in. You know what I mean? So, If we haven't met, my name is Suzanne, and I coach my clients with a set of specialized tools I developed to support you in your business and life. And I work with energy strategy tools. So everything I share here is from the perspective of how invisible energy patterns form and influence the issues and problems we face every day. So I help you to see energy clearly so you can break through to get beyond those frustrating issues or problems, so you can get unstuck and really get on with life. Okay? So again, when you're stuck, those three things are happening, right? The emotional charge, the polarization, and stabilization. So let's begin by breaking down what emotional charge is. So all of this energy I'm talking about is the emotional charge that builds up in your mind and body and can create static. The built-up charge is when your emotions have not been processed and discharged in a healthy way, such as, we all have emotional needs, and these needs are important. And if your needs have not been fulfilled or expressed fully, a static charge builds up in the background of your mind and body. So you could call this the bonding glue, the emotional glue that bonds you to what you want, but maybe have not received yet. And at the end of the day, we just want to feel an emotional connection to ourselves and with others, right? And life is guiding us towards achieving this feeling by way of us connecting to our desires. So this could be by achieving a sense of respect or belonging or recognition or love or your work or, you contributing to whatever lights you up. We all have emotional attachments to what we want, and there's nothing wrong with emotions or emotional attachment. In fact, healthy emotions are required when taking action on something you really care about. It's the unhealthy attachments that can really get things all sticky, right? So as a tip I have for you is, if you have unhealthy attachments, you'll know this if you often get emotionally triggered and you don't feel like you're able to recover quickly, right? So if it's difficult for you to recover within a couple of minutes of that trigger, you most likely have a built-up emotional charge that is wanting to be expressed. And being triggered is normal, and it will happen. It happens to all of us. But how long you are gripped by the trigger is an indication of how much emotional charge is built up in your system. So being aware is key. So say if you're trying to, prove your value or worth, or if you feel criticized when someone is giving you constructive feedback, that's where we can get triggered easily, right? So when we have unhealthy attachments, we lose sight of what's really important, and things can get kind of wonky, right? So usually this is because your thinking mind and your feeling body have competing interests. They care about different things. For example, maybe your thinking mind cares about, being right and doesn't want to look foolish or illogical. And your feeling body cares about expressing itself authentically without feeling monitored or controlled. Well, over time, when there is built up emotional charge, the next thing that happens to get you even more stuck is when the thinking mind and the feeling body get into polarization. Things get really off when the counterpoints of your thinking mind and your feeling body lose communication. So this is when polarization is fully activated. okay? Those built up emotional charge holds the thinking mind in a fixed position and the feeling body in an opposite fixed position, and all communication is lost between the two sides. Both sides of you are at an impasse, and this is when it feels impossible to take forward action. You can think of this like you're one magnet with two strongly charged polar ends that oppose each other. So both your thinking mind and your feeling body together make up the whole of you. But the challenge is that your thinking mind and your feeling body are positioned opposite to one another in polar or opposite directions, separating you into two parts, like the North Pole and the South Pole. You know, the thinking mind is up here in the north and the feeling body is down here in the south, right? It's like you have a stubborn thinking head on one end and you're digging in your heels with a stubborn feeling body on the other end. There's a strong magnetic pole holding each position in place. And no matter what you do, you feel stuck. You know that feeling when, you want to get unstuck so bad, but there's a strong tendency to be up in your head, analyzing your thoughts and you get stuck in analysis paralysis, or the strong tendency when you want to take action, but your body finds every distracting activity to do, except the one thing that would move you in the direction of your goals. Well, the tip I have for you here is when you feel that opposite magnetic pole, and you feel yourself getting pulled into internal conflict, to do your best is to pause, breathe, come to a complete full stop and remind yourself that you are safe, you're whole, nothing is wrong with you, and you're just having an emotional surge. And I do this with a simple gesture of bringing my hands together to bring awareness to my body, to remind myself that I am whole and complete. And I know how challenging it can be because it's so easy to get pulled into polarization when your mind and body are going in two different directions. But you can do this, and it just takes practice. And when you do, you are building the internal resource within yourself to interrupt polarization. So here's an example of polarization. So I love to backpack in the backcountry. And the rule number one is if your party happens to get lost, do not separate from the group, right? Things can go downhill really fast if someone goes off by themselves and gets lost from the group. And worst case is if you're alone, you might even have to deal with real survival issues like needing food or water, or dealing with unpredictable changes in weather, or an injury, or finding shelter. So it's always best to stick together, work together and share resources. Cooperation wins over a competitive mindset any day, right? The chances of survival increases when you stick together. Well, the same rules apply when you get stuck. When you're stuck, the last thing you want to do is divide yourself against solutions with deflating thoughts such as self-doubt or second-guessing yourself, or putting yourself in compromising situations. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about that third sticky ingredient that feels like concrete and seals the deal of this whole stuck thing. So, in the exact moment when you are challenged by one, highly charged, built-up, stuck emotions, and two, your thinking brain and your feeling body are fixed and stuck in polar opposition, you are now three, challenged to make a breakthrough, but without reaching for your old stabilizing strategies. You will have to resist the urge to cover up the thing you have been avoiding your entire life. You can't use any stabilizing strategies. No glue, no cement, just you being transparent. Nothing more, nothing less. And in order to get unstuck, you must be transparent. And I get it. Being fully transparent is destabilizing at first because there's nothing to grab onto. Transparency is the ultimate pattern interrupt to get you unstuck. So why haven't you been transparent? What is that thing you're protecting or avoiding? Well, you are avoiding the perception of weakness. Weakness to what? Well, what if people really knew what you really thought and what you felt? And what if what you thought and felt was perceived as weak or were perceived as unpleasant or unpopular? Maybe feeling vulnerable or powerless to rejection or uncertainty, the unknown, afraid of new, unfamiliar things, all the things we fear, all the things that, all that stuff that comes up when we feel weak. Maybe a weakness you have is asking for help. Maybe if asking for help was the thing that caused you pain in the first place, it would be destabilizing for you to get support because all that baggage that comes with it. The confusing thing about weaknesses is that it could be the things that make you appear to be strong, the attributes you consider to be, virtuous about yourself, the things that give you that status or what people rave about you. Those same things that make you feel strong can also be what keeps you stuck. This is why being stuck is so common. You cannot visibly see through your strength because your strength is also linked to your weakness, which you are avoiding and defending against. You see the double blind here? It's like, it makes you blind. Your stuck blocks are being held together with these stabilizing strategies that you've built up over time, probably your entire lifetime, and is ironically the concrete that keeps you stuck. So if you got unstuck from this block, it could actually feel destabilizing to your identity, who you think you are and who people think you are. And I understand why we fear transparency because it comes with a cost. There will be those that will feel threatened if you express your boundaries or standards or what you value. And others, they may feel even more threatened by you if you break the social norm by being transparent with your identity. And fact is, transparency is an opening to real trust and is the foundation for all solid relationships. So this does not mean you need to be transparent with everyone, because not everyone has earned that trust. Trust is built over time, but it is a requirement for you to be transparent with yourself and those whom you support and those who support you, so you can get unstuck. So I'm going to leave you with 3 tips. And tip number 1, it is impossible to get rid of emotions. So don't try to get rid of them because this leads to apathy and disconnection, which leads to all kinds of other issues in the mind and body. But you can regulate your emotions so they are operating the way they were designed, which is different than neutralizing or cutting off the life force of your emotions. Your aim is to regulate and discharge Keyword, discharge the excess, non-productive, energetic charge that is running your emotions into a chronic state of imbalance, causing you to stay stuck. Your emotions are designed to inform you, but not run you into stuck patterns. And if you do not know how to regulate your emotions, it's a good time to seek out a therapist or a coach, okay? So tip number 2, your physical brain is not wired or capable to see your intrinsic value or worth, or to make the intuitive connections to give you the directives to take new steps and new actions. Your brain was designed to resist external inputs that are out of its scope of interest. Your brain is not evil. It's just wired to keep your bodily functions and actions in the status quo. So let that really sink in. Your physical brain is not wired to support any other outside guidance that goes against the status quo. It is designed to keep your body safe, to breathe, to eat, to sleep, to stay alive, etc., right? Your brain is only wired to move your body in the way it was programmed and developed to move. If you want to override your brain, you can do it, but you will always be met with resistance. And that is the reality. And when you know that, you can just accept that resistance, which it will be part of your process. And you have to find ways to discipline your brain so you can take inspired action, even when your brain resists. And then tip number 3 is, you can do this because you are not weak. You are strong. You know how I know? You're so strong that you have built up blocks of compensating strategies to stabilize yourself up to this point in time. Now it is time to identify what those compensating blocks are that you have built and have given you the ability to keep going strong. But those things are now too heavy for you to carry further for where you're going next. We need to do a little bit of restructuring to build a real stable foundation. That is why coaches can be so beneficial, because they help you to build more sustainable structures that are more aligned to your true nature. Solid mentors, coaches, and therapists give you the materials to lay down the groundwork for you to walk confidently towards your goals. So I really hope this was helpful. And my call to action is for you to take some time to reflect on all this. And if you need to listen to this again or watch this several times, do so. That's why I recorded this for you. These concepts are big, and taking action on these concepts is not an easy task. So if you don't know how to have difficult conversations, or if you don't know how to get motivated to create that thing or make that sale, or if you don't know how to do the thing you want to do, reach out for support to those who know how to do it. And I believe in you, and there are plenty of helpers and supporters in the world that believe in you too, okay? Sometimes when we're stuck, we just need someone to take a stand for us until we can take the stand for ourselves. And I feel your pain, because we all get stuck from time to time. And the good news is there's more support today than there has ever been. And you're not alone in this. In fact, you're so strong enough to get the support that you deserve. So thank you so much, and be well.